Ever have that feeling when someone who seems totally untouchable suddenly gets caught in a huge storm?
Yeah.
That's kind of where we are today. We're diving deep into a story around a really big name in sports and media, and he's facing some incredibly serious allegations. It hints at this whole complex thing with fame, power, maybe a fall.
Right. And this deep dive, it's focused specifically on the allegations against Shannon Sharpe. We're basically looking at two main things here.
Okay.
There's a YouTube analysis that brings in some wider context, including Cat Williams' perspective, which is interesting. And then there are the actual legal documents, the lawsuit itself. That's where the specific claims are laid out.
Gotcha. And just so everyone's on the same page, Shannon Sharpe, obviously a massive NFL career, Hall of Famer.
Huge.
And then he built this whole second act in media. ESPN's First Take, his Club Shay podcast is enormous. And there was all that buzz about a gigantic, multi-million-dollar media deal potentially happening.
Exactly. And on the other side, you have the accuser. The court papers initially called her Jane Doe, but we now know her name is Gabriela Zinga.
Right.
And the allegations she's brought forward are, well, they're extremely serious. We're talking rape, sexual assault, battery, and what the lawsuit calls intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Wow.
And it's led to a $50 million lawsuit filed out in Nevada.
$50 million. Okay,
Yeah.
so look, our goal here today isn't, to pick sides or jump to conclusions. Absolutely not.
No.
What we want to do is unpack the main allegations, try to understand who the key players are, and just explore the different stories coming from these different sources.
Yeah, give you the full picture as much as we can based on what's out there.
Exactly. Give you a really comprehensive overview of what seems like a really complex and honestly still developing situation. All right, so let's get into the details. Jane Doe's allegations first, right? From the legal filings.
Okay, so the lawsuit details how they first met. It was January 2023 at a gym in L.A., and the age difference is noted right away. She was 19, Sharpe was 54.
Big difference.
Yeah. And Doe apparently stated she was uncomfortable with his advances from the start and, kind of surprisingly, didn't even know he was famous at first.
Really? Didn't know who Shannon Sharpe was?
According to the filing, yeah.
Huh.
Which makes that initial discomfort, potentially quite significant in her account.
Okay. And it sounds like he was pretty persistent after that.
That's what the lawsuit claims. Constant calls, texts. And this is interesting. He apparently demanded she sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, before they even really met up properly outside the gym.
An NDA. That early?
Yeah, and she apparently refused, multiple times.
That request, it suggests maybe he was being cautious or something.
Well, yeah. After all that, a consensual relationship did eventually start. But, and this is key in the lawsuit, it's described as being deeply manipulative right from the beginning.
Manipulative how?
It really hammers on the power dynamics. That 30-plus year age gap, his wealth, his fame, even his physical size compared to hers.
Right, those aren't small factors.
No. The suit argues this imbalance really shaped everything. It wasn't just about resources. It influenced the whole dynamic in, subtle and not so subtle ways.
Okay, so the manipulation claims, are there specifics?
Yeah, the lawsuit gets into alleged behaviors, like insisting he decided when and where they met, lying about seeing other women, even while saying they were exclusive, using tactics like being really affectionate one minute, then suddenly angry the next. It also mentions an alleged uncontrollable temper and traits described as narcissistic characteristics.
Okay, so controlling behavior, alleged lies, temper.
And then the allegations escalate quite significantly.
Yeah.
By October 2024, the suit claims Sharpe was insisting on recording their sexual encounters.
Recording them.
Yeah, and sometimes, allegedly, without her knowing or consenting, and even sharing these videos.
Sharing them. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And there are some really disturbing alleged statements mentioned, like him saying he wanted to do things to her so no other man would want her.
That's deeply unsettling, if true. Speaks to a desire for control, maybe.
That's certainly how the lawsuit frames it. Severe lack of respect, control. It also mentions an instance where he allegedly got into her apartment without permission.
Unauthorized access. Okay. And from there, it moves to the most serious allegations.
Correct. The lawsuit alleges 2 specific instances of rape occurred in October 2024 in Las Vegas. It stresses that she repeatedly said no, that she screamed during these alleged incidents.
Okay.
Then it details another alleged rape in January 2025. In this instance, Doe specifically asked Sharpe to use a condom.
And
He allegedly refused. And she continued to protest during the act. These are, I mean, obviously incredibly serious claims. The legal process is going to dissect these intensely.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's the narrative from Jane Doe's or Gabriela Zinga's legal filings. A really disturbing picture. Now, how have Shannon Sharpe and his team responded?
Well, Sharp has come out very strong, publicly denying everything. He's called the lawsuit a shakedown.
A shakedown.
Yeah, and suggested it's all being orchestrated by the lawyer, Tony Busby.
Okay.
His own lawyer, Lanny Davis, put out a statement calling the lawsuit full of lies, distortions, and misrepresentations. He insists Sharp completely denies any coercion, any misconduct, and especially rape. Categorical denial.
Okay, complete denial. But did they offer any alternative explanation for the relationship itself?
They did, and this part got a lot of attention. Sharp's team maintains the relationship was totally consensual
Right.
and involved what they described as adult role-playing, fantasy scenarios, and dual language play.
Role-playing, fantasy scenarios, dual language play. Okay, so they're suggesting it was consensual, but perhaps unconventional.
That seems to be the angle, yeah. Suggesting it was all agreed upon activity and communication within the relationship, however unusual it might seem to outsiders.
And then came the text messages. Sharpe's team released those, right?
They did. A very strategic or maybe risky move. They released some pretty explicit texts, including that big black baby message that went viral.
Yeah, I saw the reaction to that.
And the YouTube analysis we looked at really highlights how the public reaction to those texts was, well, largely negative. A lot of shock, criticism about the content itself.
Not just the content, but maybe the decision to release them at all.
Exactly. Plus, Sharp's side has also made accusations against Zynga. They claim she edited an audio clip to make Sharp sound worse.
Edited audio, okay.
And Sharp himself has pushed back hard against the lawyer, Busby, suggesting Busby has a history of targeting high-profile black men. He even brought up a past lawsuit involving Jay-Z.
Right, trying to paint Busby as having an agenda.
Seems like it. So denials, claims of consensual role play, releasing texts, and accusing the other side of manipulation and having ulterior motives. That's Sharp's response in a nutshell.
Okay, so how did Tony Busby, Zynga's lawyer, react to all that?
Busby fired back pretty hard. He flat out called Sharp a liar, directly. And he confirmed something that had been rumored, that Sharp had actually offered Jane Doe a $10 million settlement.
$10 million. And she turned it down.
According to Busby, yes. She rejected the settlement specifically to proceed with the lawsuit. That confirmation and her rejection, that's a pretty big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, turning down $10 million sends a message. What's Busby's take on why Sharp offered it?
Busby basically argues it shows Sharp is scared about what Zynga might have. He said she has real, solid receipts.
Solid receipts, meaning evidence.
Presumably, yeah. Evidence to back up her claims. Busby also hit back at Sharp's team, accusing them of trying to dox Jane Doe, reveal her private information and trying to discredit him personally.
So a lot of back and forth accusations flying both ways.
Definitely. It's become very contentious, very public.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. There's also this Cat Williams perspective, which came up in that YouTube analysis you mentioned. What's that about?
Yeah, this adds another sort of meta layer to it all. Cat Williams apparently claims he actually warned Shannon Sharpe this could happen.
Warned him. About what, specifically?
About his lifestyle, the people he was hanging around with. Williams suggested a downfall was possible.
That's intriguing, coming from Williams, who's always been outspoken about the industry. Did he say why he thought this could happen?
He talked about industry gatekeepers, powerful people who he suggested could use Sharpe's own mistakes against him if he, stepped out of line or didn't play by certain unwritten rules.
Industry gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Like powerful figures who control careers.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. People with influence.
Did Williams give specifics?
Well, the analysis pointed to Williams' own interview on Sharpe's club Shay. Apparently, during that interview, Williams warned Sharpe directly about wilding out in Hollywood.
Wilding out.
Yeah, and the risks of his private life becoming public and getting weaponized. Williams also apparently made a comment about Sharpe having an unnatural allegiance to losers. Strong words.
Definitely strong words. And the timing of the lawsuit, did the analysis connect that to Williams's comments?
It did. It highlighted how the lawsuit surfaced right around the time of those huge $100 million media deal rumors for Sharpe.
Right.
And also, apparently, not long before there was talk of a second interview between Sharpe and Williams happening.
Oh, interesting timing.
Yeah, so the analysis raises questions, about potential motivations, the bigger picture, whether there's more going on behind the scenes than just the core allegations.
So Williams's view, as presented, is that Sharpe maybe made himself vulnerable?
Kind of. Williams seems to suggest, through the analysis at least, that Sharpe almost handed ammunition to potential adversaries, specifically pointing to those texts being released and just his overall behavior in associations, like he provided the dirt himself.
Okay, that's quite a take. Adds a whole different dimension. Are there other relevant details we should cover?
Yeah, a few important points of context. One is that this isn't actually the first time Shannon Sharpe has faced allegations like this.
It isn't.
No. There was a previous lawsuit back in New York, a woman named Michelle Evans, and the report notes the allegations were eerily similar.
Eerily similar. In what way?
Similar claims involving non-consensual sexual acts and threats. The fact that similar accusations have been made before, well, it adds complexity, doesn't it?
It certainly adds context. Anything else?
There were also reports about a physical incident involving Sharpe and a female production assistant back when he was at FICA Sports. Apparently, that incident was settled.
A settled physical incident? Okay.
Again, the specifics are maybe debated, but it adds to the background picture of his interactions in professional settings.
And what about his current employers? ESPN.
Well, we know Sharpe temporarily stepped away from his ESPN duties when this broke. He maintained the relationship was 100% consensual.
He stepped away voluntarily.
Temporarily stepped away, yes. And ESPN put out a statement saying they're taking it all very seriously and are looking into this very, very closely.
Standard corporate response, but it shows they're aware and monitoring.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It signals potential career consequences depending on how things develop.
And just circling back to the public reaction, you mentioned the texts.
Yeah, the reaction has been pretty significant, especially online. Lots of shock, criticism. The age gap got a lot of comments. And the whole race play aspect mentioned in connection with the text, that drew a lot of fire too. Public opinion is definitely a factor here, putting pressure on everyone involved.
Okay. So as we sort of wrap up this deep dive, it feels like we're left with these really sharply conflicting stories.
Absolutely stark contrasts.
You've got Jane Doe's detailed, really disturbing account of manipulation, control, and assault.
Yeah.
Then you have Shannon Sharpe's flat-out denial, claims it was all consensual, maybe unconventional, but consensual, and calls it a shakedown.
Right.
And then layered on top, you have this Cat Williams commentary suggesting maybe there are wider industry dynamics, power plays involved too.
Exactly. Three very different lenses to view this through.
And again, it's so important to stress, our goal here was just to lay out the information from the sources we had.
Yeah, we're not drawing conclusions, not taking sides.
Definitely not. These are incredibly serious allegations, and it's all playing out in the legal system now.
Which takes time and requires a high burden of proof.
Right. Which leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Is this story just about the alleged actions of one individual? Is it purely personal misconduct, if the allegations are true? Or does it also reflect something bigger, like Cat Williams hinted? Does it touch on those broader themes of power, fame, control, maybe even exploitation within the whole sports and entertainment world?
It definitely makes you think about how those things might intersect, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Personal choices versus industry pressures or dynamics.
Exactly. It's something to consider, that potential interplay, as more details emerge and this whole situation unfolds.
For sure. And we just encourage everyone listening to keep following the actual news reports and the legal developments as this case moves forward.
Absolutely. It's far from over.